We see a world where there is a direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature.
Good morning. A special welcome to our Spanish-speaking audience. Today we're having simultaneous Spanish interpretation. And by the way, if you know of a location where it would be appropriate for us to post one of our Spanish language posters announcing our simultaneous interpretation, you can pick up the posters under the balcony in the back of the auditorium over there, as long as you have permission to post it. You know, we don't want to get into trouble with our neighbors and friends, but you're welcome to take one of the posters and put it up in a place where we can communicate that we've got simultaneous interpretation available every second Sunday here at the center. And also, happy birthday to Nava, who just gave us our opening prayer. You see, Facebook is good for something. Our topic today is, don't do anything until I get back. It's a phrase that a comedian used, and the comedian said that if humanity wasn't able to evolve, then leaders, spiritual teachers like Jesus of Nazareth would have probably said, don't do anything until I get back, because you can't do anything anyway. I'll bring the change when I come back. I'll evolve you. I like what Barbara Marx Hubbard says about conscious evolution. She says, conscious evolution inspires in us a mysterious and humble awareness that we have been created by this awesome process of evolution and are now being transformed by it. Oh, yes, we are being transformed. Although, if you look at our country right now, and our election process, it almost looks like it's taking a step in the opposite direction of evolution of consciousness. You know, as I look at it, I look for these words in our culture. I don't find them. Humble? No. Awesome? No. Transformed? Well, in what direction? Look, it does bring up a question. The question in my mind is, how is a person who calls themselves a metaphysician and is studying truth teaching, comes to the center, how ought we to think about all of this? How do we deal with it? And you know, some people, it looks like they're taking the advice of the comedian. They're not doing anything until something happens. Until somebody comes with clear instructions. See, I think they didn't realize it was a joke. To me, the way of conscious evolution, it seems that to evolve, I've got to get involved. It's not a spectator sport. One of our sister organizations, Unity, the Unity leaders put out a published guide for conscious voting. And really, it could be a conscious guide for life, decision-making in life. And they said that the first act of a conscious individual is to participate. Their opinion is that if you and I do not vote, we are putting our collective future in the hands of those who do. And that's like asking a blind person to drive the car that is carrying your family and friends and loved ones. Conscious evolution, I mentioned last week, is about waking up more and more to what is available to us in the spiritual life, rather than sleepwalking through life, waiting for someone else to make a decision, and they will. It's about becoming more and more aware, not less and less aware. And I think the challenge with becoming more and more aware is that it gives us more and more options. And with more and more options, there's more and more to consider. Things get complicated, and I can see how some people feel overwhelmed by that and may even think it's preferable to go back to sleep I was better off when I didn't have to think about it. And they hide out, while the business of nation crafting gets handled by mob mentality. And mob mentality is characterized by less and less awareness. So why get involved? Well, because as a person who is striving to live a spiritual life, who is a metaphysician, you already know that you have the opportunity to contribute with your consciousness, contribute to what is going on by bringing into play oneness and unity and compassion and empathy and kindness, because your involvement is how the direction of evolution is set. You know that. Why get involved? Well, in addition to the election of the President of the United States, there are also laws and programs and leadership and propositions being decided upon in California that will impact the lives of those we love, some say even more than who gets the presidency. We'll be setting things in motion, empowering people to implement, change, act upon our decisions. So whether we hide or participate, our choice is still shaping the destiny of these United States of America, because our choice from our consciousness is causative. Back to the question, how does a metaphysician from the Center for Spiritual Living deal with the election? Well, for starters, you may recall last week we discussed that there is a power for good in the universe, and you can use it. So, step one then is to use it. Here's how. Don't do anything. Don't discuss anything. Don't share that Facebook post. Don't send that email. Don't correct that relative until you have consulted with the power for good in the universe. That's the first step in navigating this election season, because if you don't consult with that power, it's like turning over the steering wheel of the family car to a blind person. Or you could say it like this: pray first and often. Why? Well, because prayer takes place in our mind, and our mind is our direct link to spirit, the higher power, higher consciousness. And linked to higher consciousness, here's what we can expect. Spirit will never direct us to do something hurtful, spiteful, mean-spirited, negative, and unkind. No. Spirit will never stir up in us hatred and revenge. No. Spirit will never frazzle our brains until we lose our composure, our hope, and our gladness. No. So if that's going on, then I can ask, what am I listening to? What am I communing with? What am I consulting with? What's driving my car? What's guiding my choices? See, my idea is before I even get involved with my ballot, I ought to evolve my consciousness. And to me, that means if I notice it's down there, that's on me. I've got to lift it up. I mean, if my mind is in the muck, that's on me. I've got to lift that up and get it up out of there before I start checking boxes. How? By consulting with the power for good in the universe. And you know what I've noticed? It is unlikely that I will find the clear voice of the power for good in the universe on social media. Did you notice? Probably not even so much on the news or on talk radio. I mean, that's good information. That's wonderful. But for me to consult with Spirit, I'm going to have to look for it where it is, deeper within, in the silence of prayerful consultation with the divine. I like what one of my colleagues, Reverend Sunday Cote, has to say about it. She says, as we truly live in alignment with that power, we model for others the fruits of the spiritual evolutionary path. Gently and powerfully, we light the way for an illumined world to emerge, one precious soul after another. Yes. There's a thought. As I evolve my consciousness, I become an example that contributes to the direction. So I get to ask, what is the example that I am leaving for the people around me right now? Can they tell? Can people tell by the way I talk about the candidates and the issues that I am a student of truth? Can they tell? By the way I talk about the elections, that I am a devotee of divine love? Can they tell? Can they tell when I talk about it that I am an observer of divine law and that I subscribe to the idea that there is an elegant, perfect, right action governing this reality? Can they tell? What's my legacy? One way of leaving an excellent legacy is to educate myself and get clear. That's the step 2 of conscious personal evolution when it comes to elections or relationships or job or anything. Is get clear for yourself. Open your eyes. There was a time I had to inject medicine into myself because it had to be done so regularly. I had to carry around the hypodermic needles, and I'm a little squeamish when it comes to needles. I don't like that at all. So I asked a friend of mine if he would administer the injection for me, and he said yes. And so we filled up, we prepared the hypodermic needle, and he takes it like this, he goes, and I said, no, absolutely not. You can't just jab around in the dark. No, you have to open your eyes if you want to be helpful and conscious. That's how you do it. You got to open your eyes. So I had to learn to do it myself. And that's what I have to learn now. Educate myself, especially on the difference between an opinion and a fact. And in the political world, I might need to make friends with sites like these: factcheck.org, politifact.com, factchecker.com. Look, these are no substitute for consulting with higher power, but they certainly can help me navigate through challenging things, especially when feelings are involved. Which feelings? All the feelings. Angry, agitated, happy, hopeful, vengeful, indignant, self-righteous, all the feelings. In other words, check them. Especially check for the source that is causing that feeling. Is it accurate? It's the same with spiritual life, We've learned you and I can't rely on the testimony of somebody else. You can't jab around in the dark. You got to consider your source and check it. That's step 3 of conscious evolution. Consider the source of your information. I like what Jesus of Nazareth had to say about unconscious leadership. It's right there in the Bible. Matthew 15. He said, "Leave them alone. They are blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall in the ditch." Everyone has conscious and unconscious biases. Everyone, newspaper reporters, teachers, ministers, friends, mothers, fathers, everybody. So I get to exercise some care that I don't become so saturated with other people's unchecked passion that it stirs me up into confusion to the point of paralysis. That's on me. And so I got to gather information at a pace that is right for me, verify it, evaluate it so that I can sit with it in holy silence and make my decision from that core, the self of God within, available and shared by all. Step 4 of conscious evolution is related to that. It's about making the best decision I can, that the one that best supports and connects or is in alignment with my core values. Now, whether that's in the election or in choosing a meal or buying a house, the best possible decision I can, given all the circumstances, because I know, and probably you know, there's no silver bullet. There's no miracle cure. There's no Messiah. There's no waiting for somebody to tell us what to do. There's no easy way out. No, there is sorting it out. And in sorting it out, I know I have to be careful of idealism or all or nothing thinking. I got to be careful. I like what Ernest Holmes had to say about black and white thinking. You know what he said? He said, we must be careful not to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I get like that sometimes. If it doesn't work out exactly the way I want it to work out, then I'm not going to play at all. If my participation doesn't count the way I want it to, I won't participate at all. But I can't. No, that's a luxury I can't afford. I still have to make the best decision I can for the highest good for all. And part of that decision-making process includes me paying attention to what I'm stirring up, to what I'm contributing with my consciousness, with my thinking. That's step 5. Watch your thinking, Edward, especially that persistent thinking. The persistent thoughts. I've been hanging out at the Center for Spiritual Living for quite some time now. And I've heard some things. I've heard that the thoughts that we attach ourselves to with force of habit and depth of feeling have a nasty or delightful way of producing results. I've heard. And I've heard that what we dwell upon sows seeds for the future. I've heard. And I've heard that holding thoughts of fear and anger is bad for your digestion. I've heard. And I've heard that abandoning your belief in the perfect right action of this amazing spiritual universe is unnecessary, because worry doesn't seem to be capable of producing good results. I've heard. The Unity Guide to Conscious Voting asks us, once you've made a decision, how do you know you've made the right choice? Whoa. And they suggest, you can feel it because everybody's got their own way of knowing whether or not they're in alignment with the power of creation and when they're not. And so you can evaluate the choices. If one leads you to urgency and anxiety and the other one leads to peace and inclusion, go that way. Go with the peace. It's not a perfect system, but it calls us to pay attention. And they say in this guide that if you and I feel fear or guilt as we prepare to make a choice, it's possible that we're being manipulated. And to step back from it and breathe and go back inside to consult with the power for good in the universe. What's driving me? I like what Richard Foster has to say about that. He says, if money determines what you do or do not do, then money is your boss. If God determines what you do or do not do, then God is your boss. Bottom line, conscious evolution means becoming aware again that there is a powerful good in the universe that you can use in this election or not. Because such is the love of divine mind that it will leave you and me utterly free to use it or not. And leave you and me utterly free to gather in the consequences of our creative participation or non-participation. You see, we are the world. In the little book, This Thing Called You, there's a lovely affirmation that is suitable for use in this election process. I'm going to repeat it to myself every time I feel myself being stirred up by hypnotism, stimulated by the unchecked passions of other people. I'm going to say to myself, my affairs are in the keeping of infinite wisdom. I am guided by divine intelligence. The activity of spirit inspires my mind and flows through my actions. Life lies open to me, rich, full, and abundant. I invite you to read that with me. My affairs are in the keeping of infinite wisdom. I am guided by divine intelligence. The activity of spirit inspires my mind and flows through my actions. Life lies open to me, rich, full, and abundant. That's really also how we're thinking about our center as well. Last week I shared with you that we've been studying our finances, and we noticed that there's a possible deficit at the end of the year. And so many people came up to me after the service and thanked me for being frank and open about it. And many people asked for more specifics. They wanted to know, how did that happen? How much is it exactly? You know how we are. And as I said last things, we're not panicked. Things can change. We still got almost 3 months left. But still, I wanted to respond to the request for more exact information, so I did some working out, and I found out that last year, 897 people attended Sunday services on average every week of the year. So I divided that into the deficit, and I figured out that if every person who comes to a Sunday service from now till the end of the year and the remaining 11 weeks contributed an extra $3, would cover the deficit, because that would add up to $28-something thousand. That's all it is, Or 3 people could write a check for $10,000 each. Or 10 people could write a check for $3,000 each. I don't know. It's easy. But somebody asked me, Edward, is it because giving is down? And I said, no, it's not. Actually, you have been really very good with fulfilling your giving promises. We have one of the highest fulfillment rates in Centers for Spiritual Living of people who said, I'll give X amount of dollars, they do it. That's really wonderful. It's not that. And somebody said, well, is it because spending is out of control? Hell no, it's not. Have you met our COO, Jan Davis? She won't even let us buy a paperclip if it's not accounted for. No, we are very, very well managed. So what is it about? It's all the other sources of revenue. Look, our bookstore, you know how impossible it is to compete with Amazon? It's impossible. It's just impossible. And workshops and education program, rentals, all the other things have had a steady decline in revenue. That's where it's come from. But we're not panicked, and I'll tell you why not. Even last week we received, where is the percentage? I'll make it up then. No, over 50% of the cards we received last week showed an increase in giving over last year. That's why we're not bothered. And 29% of the giving intention cards we received last week were first-time intenders. That's hopeful. That's why we're not worried. We're excited. And by the way, if you filled in your giving intention online, or you mailed it in, some 100 people did that, please go visit the table outside and pick up your gift. We've got a gratitude gift for everyone who completes it. It's a calendar that links to the themes. It's an interactive journal for every week of the year, and it's an exclusive workshop that I will be teaching on January 1st, only for people who complete their giving intention during the month of October. No manipulation there. I also mentioned last week that I would tell you about the nonprofit partners that we selected from your nominations. We gathered in all of the nominations and selected organizations that resonate with what we value in spiritual living so that we could partner with them and the wonderful work that they're doing in the world. And these are the organizations we chose on your behalf. The AIDS Life Cycle, supporting the San Francisco AIDS Foundation and the Los Angeles LGBT Center in their work with people who are HIV infected or working through living with AIDS. The Alyssa Ann Rook Burn Foundation, enhancing the quality of life for burn survivors and promoting burn prevention awareness and education. Becoming Independent, supporting individuals with developmental disabilities so that they can become successful employees in our community. Series community project, creating health for people, communities, the planet, through love and healing food and education for the next generation, for our teens. Community Matters, waking up the courage of students and adults to create schools that are safe and welcoming and inclusive. Sonoma County Task Force for the Homeless, working to end homelessness in our community through advocacy programs, development, education, and collaboration. Mentor Me, which empowers youth in need to achieve their highest potential by matching them with an adult mentor. And then the Redwood Credit Union Wildlife Relief, which continues to support fire relief efforts for the victims of the 2016 Lake County fire. Santa Rosa Children's Chorus, and they came and sang to us, and they're coming back, really empowering children to value and enjoy art. Priceless. Sloan House Women's Shelter, providing a home and 6-month broad scope program in Santa Rosa for women to create a better life. The Living Room, which is Sonoma County's only daytime drop-in center for homeless and at risk of being homeless women and children. And what a beautiful thank you note we got from that organization. And then Villages in Partnership, creating partnerships with people in villages in Malawi to bring about life-changing development for both sides of the partnership. So as you can see, our nonprofit partners are both local and international, and they represent both organizations in need and those who are prospering, but most important, they resonate with our vision of contributing to a world that works better for everyone. That is what inspires us to choose and to celebrate the way we do. These organizations also represent the extension of your love into the world. Through your contributions, they receive some good, and the circle is ever widening. So now it is time for us to join in prayer. So I invite you to breathe in with me and to exhale, letting your eyes close, as we take a moment to consult with that power for good in the universe. As we let go of everything and turn our awareness inward, observing our mind, which is our direct link to the great all there is. It is everywhere present, always has been, always will be. This is the meaning of eternal. And so consulting within, we realize our unity with it and through it to each other. And so by this prayer and this prayer alone, We dissolve all barriers in mind between us and spirit. As we remember the truth of our being, that within us is the presence and the power and the wisdom of the Almighty that we can use. Indeed, that is using us. It loves through us. It thinks through us. It helps through us. And as we remember this, our true identity, we shake loose any other concept, returning to this identity of spiritual beings. We realize we cannot be hypnotized. We cannot be sidetracked. We cannot be enticed by the noise. And that we stand in the middle of the world, in the middle of all of its goings on, sure and certain of our identity, believing in and accepting the power of our word and understanding the creative energy that flows through us. We stand strong and giving thanks for this. Then I release this word of prayer into the law of mind, and together we all say, and so it is.